I've had to start over more than once in my life. And I don't mean the cute start over where you buy new planners, cute little pens, clean out your closets, and decide Monday morning I'm going to be a brand new person. I'm talking about the starting over where life smacks you dead in the mouth and you turn around looking like, what the world? And what do I do now? Maybe a relationship ended. Maybe you lost your job. Whatever brought you there, starting over can feel like you're back to square one. Whatever brought you there, starting over can make you feel like everything you've done up to this point has been wasted, like you're back at the beginning. But I've learned something about that. The beginning isn't quite the same place once you've lived through some things. Seasons in my life where change happened so fast that I didn't recognize who I was anymore. And when you're in the middle of that, it's very easy to focus on what's not there anymore. The plans that didn't work out, the relationship that didn't work out, the job that ended, and the person that you used to be. And we sometimes look at those losses and think, I'm starting from nothing. But you're not. Granted, you could be starting with less than you expected. You could be starting over because something completely fell apart. I get it. But let me remind you, no matter what happened, you're bringing something that you did not have the first time around. Experience. That experience doesn't always feel valuable, but there's a freaking high price tag attached to it. Think about who you were 20 or 30 years ago. Lord have mercy. The decisions I made when I was younger, I look back on them now and think, girl, what was you thinking? Or not thinking is a better term. But that's the point. I know things now that I did not know then, simply because I experienced them. There are things that I thought would destroy me, but somehow they didn't. I know plans can fall apart. I know money comes and money goes. And I know that when life does eventually fall apart in one way or another, you have to eventually figure out what comes next. That knowledge came from somewhere, it came from living. So we can't say we're starting from scratch, right? Now, let's not make starting over prettier than it is. Sometimes you don't want a fresh start. You want the life that you already worked hard to get. You wanted the marriage to work. You wanted the job, the career to work. You wanted your body to continue to do what it's supposed to do. You want the plans that you spent years making to actually fall into place and come to fruition. And then somebody has the audacity to say, well, look at it as a fresh start. And sometimes you want to tell them right where they can put their fresh start because you're tired, not excited about rebuilding. You're probably kind of pissed off that you have to. I know I was. And guess what? You're allowed to say that and you're allowed to feel that. You can be grateful for another chance and still be mad that you needed it. Both can absolutely be true. But at some point, you do have to actually look at what you still have. And then that's where things will start to shift. Maybe you don't have the same money, but now you know how you want to use money. Maybe you don't have that relationship now, but now you know what you will or will not accept in the next one. Maybe you don't have that career, but you have those skills. They didn't go anywhere. And maybe you're rebuilding your life far later in life than you thought you would. But you are bringing decades of knowing, solving problems, making mistakes, and figuring things out. That counts a whole damn lot. And I think sometimes we get so focused on what we lost that we fail to realize what we survived. So maybe that's the question we need to ask ourselves. What have I survived? What do I know now? What am I better at now because of an experience that I've had? What won't I do again? What matters to me now? What used to matter that I don't give two shits about now? Because if you're going to rebuild anyway, you might as well rebuild the life you want to live. Maybe you don't want the same kind of house. Maybe you don't want that same kind of relationship. Maybe you don't want that career that looks impressive but makes you absolutely miserable. Maybe success means something totally different to you now than it did 20 years ago. And that's not failure, that's simply information, data, if you will. And especially when we're starting over later in life, we have to stop thinking that there is like a certain age limit where you're supposed to have had everything all figured out because it does not exist. It just simply don't. People get divorced at 55. People change careers at 60. People fall in love at 70. People lose money, they make money, they move, they grieve losses, they change their minds, and they begin again. Life doesn't stop because you've reached a certain age, and there isn't an expiration date on rebuilding your life the way you want it to be. So if you're sitting there right now thinking, I'm too old for this. I've lost too much. I should be further along in life than this. Everybody else has their life figured out. I really want you to take a look at that square because I don't think it's square one. You're standing in that square with all those lessons you've learned along the way. Every mistake you've made, every boundary you set, every single skill you've picked up along the way. And you did not have all of that the first time. That's why starting over isn't starting from scratch. You're starting from experience. And although experience is heavy, 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 a burden to bear, it's also very useful. If today's conversation helped you and you would like to go a little further, I have a whole article over on my website at that'ssoauntsusie.com called Starting Over Isn't Starting from Scratch. And if conversations like this encourage you or make you feel a little less alone, I would love for you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next call. Have you ever had to start over when you thought that you should have already had this figured out? What did you bring into your new chapter? I'd love to hear from you. Call me in the comments. Around here, I simply share what I've lived, what I've learned, and what I hope helps somebody else on their journey. And hey, if you're struggling, pull up a chair. We'll figure it out together.